Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to Jim's 5 a.m. Club. And I'm just here at the cliff top, just above Bronte Pool. As you can see, the ocean is starting to calm down, the tide's starting to go out, and it's just a little bit more pleasant now for the swimmers in the pool, whereas before it was just white out and just an absolute washing machine. But I'll try and get down later on there to grab myself a few laps to get it out of my system, because I do enjoy my swimming, for those who know me. But what I thought I'd do now is, now that I have the opportunity and it's Sunday, is to go through a book summary with you. And the book summary that I've chosen to talk about this morning is entitled The Age of Empathy. The Age of Empathy, and the author is Franz de Waal. Franz de Waal, who talks to us about the age of empathy and why it's important to have a look at what makes us tick and to help identify some of those natural states that we may not be aware of. But the author talks about here the importance of empathy and cooperation, and he makes a very valid point that many animals survive not by eliminating each other, but by keeping everything for themselves and not keeping everything for themselves, but by learning how to cooperate and share. Living in peace, harmony, and helping one another are inherent human traits, because at the end of the day, we're kind and friendly at heart. That's the way we're wired, and that's the way we've been created. So it's important to understand, and I think it's quite welcoming to understand that our natural state, our inherited natural traits, are those of kindness and friendliness. And it's always our go-to, our baseline that we can always rely on. Because it may come as a bit of a surprise that violence and war have not always been a part of our human experience. And it's something that we've learned and something that's crept into our behaviours over the past few hundred years, I'd imagine, or maybe a few thousand years. I could go on to state, because we have a number of biblical and ancient historical accounts of the wars, and the ones that I note are the many wars that the Greeks had, especially the Peloponnesian Wars. And coming from Peloponnesos, I know that it's been in our blood for many years. But the author here is very good at reminding us that periods of war and violence are brief when looking at the history of time. And violence was rare even in our history. While it may appear that we spent years and years fighting and brawling with each other, the reality was that there were periods of peace and periods of war, periods of cooperation and periods of non-cooperation. So that's the first key point to come out of the book. And the next point that the author talks about is the fact that humans are social in nature. We have a herd instinct. We have a thing called synchrony, which plays a vital role in the bonding that humans and animals experience. So let's not forget that we are very social, always have been and always will be, very social in nature. And the fact that I guess these days you see people who are lonely and people who are expressing antisocial behaviours is a bit of a concern, I'd imagine, because it's not part of our natural state, is what the author is telling us and suggesting to us. Anyway, let's get another angle and just get a bit of sun on my face, or a bit of light on my face. So this whole thing of synchrony. There's a wonderful guy surfing out there. He just caught this massive wave. I reckon these waves here are about 3 meters. They're bigger than the waves that I was seeing at Bondi. So an example of synchrony in terms of what bonds us together and what makes us united as one is if you yawn, if you're in public, or if you're in a group of people and you yawn, what you find is the expression of yawning is quite contagious, and before long your yawning will be the invitation for people around you to start yawning as well. And this thing is called unconscious synchrony and herd instinct, where people tend to love to herd and to group together and to express similar sort of behaviours, which can be a positive thing and can also be a negative thing if not kept in check, because we also have the thing known as groupthink, which can be good and it can be bad, where people tend to just take on the thought patterns of the group at large, and you can get one or two people who are adept at manipulation can influence the rest of the herd or the rest of the group to behave in a way which may be to their advantage, or it may be against them, against their advantage, if you understand what I mean. Look at that wave set come through. Absolutely powerful, absolutely magnificent. Anyway, so this whole thing of synchrony, I'll get it right, it's a difficult word, synchrony, is the sort of thing which is a survival mechanism that allows us to continue to survive and to group together. And it's the sort of thing that compels us to bond and to be one as a community. And it's the very reason why birds flock together and fly in formation to the same destination. Because over history, what we've probably learnt in our history of time is that we need to be together. We need to herd together, to stick together in order to survive as a species. And that's why it's very instinctive to us. And that's why, as we said, we love being social, we love being together. And for those who don't express those desires of being social, you've got to understand that it's a very unnatural sort of behaviour. So people who want to be loners, people who want to be on their own, people who don't want to socialise and be with other people, we must understand that that is not a natural state, and it could be a danger sign that needs to be addressed or at least looked at. Because we'll say it and we'll say it again, empathy, cooperation, society, community are things that come naturally to us, and it's the reason why we are here today. The church, religion, community, communal activity is something which, as we say, is part of our DNA. And our default disposition, and I absolutely love this point that the author makes, our default disposition is to be sensitive and compassionate to each other, to our fellow human beings, and it's part of our instinct. So you don't have to work at being compassionate and sensitive. And if you do, then it may be a sign that you need to do more work at it and do more of it. Because as we've alluded to, it's our natural state. And it comes to us in spades when we become parents. Parenting and compassion and looking after children and helping them grow and develop is our second nature. And it is very, very salvific. And it's very, very good for our health, our mental health, our physical health, and our social health. Because parents, as we've learnt, but let me make a point, not all parents, but parents in general have a natural sensitivity to their children and to want to be with their families and to help them grow and develop. So there you go, another book summary, another opportunity for us to learn something new. So thank you very much for joining me on today's episode of Jim's 5am Club from this cliff top just above the Bronte Baths down here at Bronte Beach. So it's been a pleasure, an absolute pleasure, going through this book entitled The Age of Empathy by Franz de Waal, where we've actually gone through and hopefully picked up a couple of points that may help us grow, develop and become better versions or better parents or better social contributors. So let's finish off with a positive affirmation. I'm alive, I am well, and I feel absolutely great. To my friends and family, stay connected, stay reasonable, stay relevant, and most importantly, let's stay social, let's remain empathetic and compassionate, and remind ourselves that that is our natural state. To be together, to huddle together, to communicate, to commune, to be part of a group is our natural state. And this whole thing of COVID-19, this social distancing, this working from home, we've got to remember and appreciate that it's not natural for us as humans. And if anything, it's destructive and going to cause issues unless it gets addressed very quickly. So hopefully we can all team together to vaccinate against COVID-19 and get on top of this health issue so that we can get back to another norm, and that normal is to be operating and living and ebbing and flowing with our friends and family and our work peers, and not being too isolated and too distanced from our social circles. So Yassas, I look forward to chatting to you again from a different location with a different message, a message of empowerment where we can be the wind beneath our wings and that we can hopefully learn something to help us live, learn and pass it on. Yassas, Sasagapao from Jim's 5am Club. I'll sign off now and we'll chat again later on. Bye, enjoy your Sunday. Que kalidinami to whoever is starting their fasting. Because today, as I mentioned before, is Meat Fair Sunday, the day where we have our last meat and we get to detox from meat for 55 days up until we come to that magnificent Sunday, the Easter of Sunday, our Pascha, and where we can cleanse our bodies, cleanse our minds, cleanse our behaviors, and become better versions of ourselves. Yassas, Sashiratao, take care, ke kalidinami. Bye for now.